Welcome back to the Creative Business Mindset Podcast, the space where we redefine what it means to build a business from the inside out. If you're a creative, a visionary, a multi-passionate entrepreneur who's been doing all the right things but still feels stuck, today's episode is for you. Because what if the thing holding you back isn't a lack of strategy, but a subconscious pattern you didn't even know was running the show? I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Jennifer Fidder. Jennifer is a social psychologist, hypnotist, and transformational coach who has spent the last 2 decades helping women rewire the fears, doubts, and inner blocks that keep them playing small, even when they know they are meant for more. Her approach isn't about hustle, performance, or mindset hacks. It's about helping you feel safe with success so you can stop sabotaging and start receiving what is truly meant for you. In this conversation, we're talking about how fear disguises itself in your business, why getting unstuck starts with your identity, what subconscious safety really means and why you need it to grow, and how to access confidence that doesn't feel fake or forced. This episode is a loving wake-up call. So wherever you are right now, walking, painting, journaling, or driving, let's dive in. Welcome to the Creative Business Mindset Podcast, the show where creativity meets strategy and mindset meets success. I'm Jane Vellante, artist, coach, and creative entrepreneur, here to help you break free from self-doubt, clear limiting beliefs, and build a business that aligns with who you truly are. Each week, we dive into the mindset shifts, visibility strategies, and creative breakthroughs that help you turn your passion into a thriving business without burnout, overthinking, or perfectionism holding you back. If you're ready to step into your power, create with confidence, and grow a business you love, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Okay, so welcome, Jennifer, to the Creative Business Mindset Podcast. I am so excited you are here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing.
So I would love to start by having you tell everybody a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Jennifer Fidder. I'm a social psychologist, hypnotist, and speaker. And I work mainly with female entrepreneurs and help them overcome whatever keeps them stuck in their business. It might be a fear of failure, fear of rejection. We have a lot of imposter syndrome, perfectionism, all the good stuff. Stress management, sleep issues are big. So basically everything where my client feels like, okay, I want to take the next step in my business, but something is holding me back. That's where we start.
Oh, I love that. So just sort of researching you a little bit, and of course you sent me a little bio. I have read that you've worked with women for nearly 2 decades now, which is so awesome. So I want to ask, in your experience, what are some of the most common fears or subconscious patterns you see that are holding female entrepreneurs back? And I know you just named some of them. So if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, I think that I will have a lot of listeners that are seeing themselves or hearing themselves in what you're saying.
Yeah, sure. So the interesting thing with that is that usually there's kind of this misconception of what the actual problem is. I have a lot of clients come to me and say, oh, I have a problem with procrastination, or I have a problem with perfectionism, or I have a problem with putting myself out there, not realizing that those are actually the symptoms of the underlying problem. And the problem, most of the time, I want to say 95% of the time, being some type of fear.
Okay.
And the fears that we see most common are fear of failure. What happens if this doesn't work out? What will my family think about me? What if I invest all this time and money and then nothing comes out of it, right?
Yeah.
Or fear of rejection. What if I put myself out there? What if I put my art out there? What if I put my product out there and then nobody buys it? Or somebody makes stupid comments on social media, which happens all the time, right? Yeah. So those are like the most common fears that are the root cause and the reason why we start procrastinating, why we start being so perfectionistic about, okay, this has to just look much better before I can put it out there. Or if I want to create this course, I just have to redo it and I have to remove the models and whatever,
Yeah.
and just never really putting our things, whatever it is that we're creating, out there. Because if we're not putting it out there, we can't be rejected, we can't fail. So
Right.
It's kind of a protection mechanism of our subconscious mind.
And that's so funny too, because we think of it as a protection mechanism. However, what we're actually doing is failing ourselves first.
Yes. Exactly.
So like we think we're protecting ourselves by overthinking, by being stuck in perfectionism. And in actuality, if we're never showing anything, then, we can't succeed at all.
Yeah. And that's exactly the problem, because that's what our subconscious mind wants, right? It wants to protect us.
Yep.
So in our subconscious mind, it is this like, okay, if you don't put yourself out there, then you won't get hurt. And I don't want you to get hurt. So I'm going to hold you back in this way, not realizing that the other way around is actually much worse for us. And that we are now at a point, because what we also have to realize is most of the pattern our subconscious mind develops stem from our childhood, and we kind of carry them into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
So our subconscious mind doesn't realize that we now have different tools at our disposal, that we can deal with whatever comes at us. If it's a stupid comment on social media, if it's somebody who says no to my offer, like we have the tools to deal with this.
Yeah.
And yes, it might sting a little bit and we feel a little bit offended, but we're going to get over it. It's not that much or that big of a deal. And that is our main point that we have to get across to our subconscious mind, to say, hey, listen, I understand what you're doing and I appreciate what you're doing,
right,
but let's switch up the strategy a little bit and see if that might work better for my goal.
Yeah. So could you explain for somebody that's sort of brand new to this idea, how does hypnosis or subconscious work actually help somebody move past this fear or these self-doubts that you've been talking about?
So if you're completely new to the field, what you first have to understand is we have these two parts to our mind. We have the conscious part and we have the subconscious part. The conscious part is the rational, logical thinking part of our mind. So what you're listening to me with right now is your conscious mind.
Yes.
And the subconscious part is the more creative one, the more emotional one, and it runs a lot of things in the background outside of our conscious awareness. So all of these patterns that I was talking about, they usually run outside of our conscious awareness. We don't know that this is what is going on unless we already kind of did a lot of self-reflection and we did a lot of work and we are slowly becoming aware of the process.
Right.
So what hypnosis does is it helps us bridge this barrier between the conscious and the subconscious mind. I like to think of this barrier as we call it in hypnosis, we call it the critical faculty, but I like to think of it as like a bouncer in front of a club that wants to protect whatever is inside the club and who decides who gets in and who doesn't. So when we want to make changes in our life, what we usually do is we come with the logic from the conscious mind and we want to change something that's inside the subconscious mind. And then we run into this bouncer. And we're trying to argue with the bouncer and make our point and say, hey, listen, this is much more beneficial. And I don't know what you guys are doing in there, but we got to change it. And then the bouncer looks inside the club and is like, yeah, but that's not what we learned when we were children. So I don't see a point of letting you in here and just making changes randomly.
Right. Yeah.
And hypnosis helps us basically bring everything that's inside the subconscious mind that we want to change, inside that club, if you will, out, so that we can directly access this. And we don't have to have this argument with the bouncer. We can just directly go to the subconscious mind and say, hey, listen, this is the situation. This is what's going on. And once the subconscious mind understands, it changes a pattern like this because there's no point in holding on to it. It's like kind of this, duh, of course. And then if a pattern doesn't make sense anymore or doesn't fulfill the purpose anymore that it was created for, then it's easy to let go of it. And that's all that hypnosis does. It basically reframes your experience and your thought patterns.
I love that. And, I talk a lot about neural pathways, and that, you can't just go and have those surgically removed, right? They're going to be there
you can try. At this point, you can totally try.
Who knows what technology is coming out, right? But it is truly rewiring your own brain. And hypnosis makes it a whole lot easier. And I think it's just more of like a gentler process, because you are, if we're using that bouncer as the idea, it's like you're trying to push that bouncer out of the way, and he's a big guy that you can't even move, so I love that as a metaphor. And I know that a lot of people are really scared of hypnosis. So what is a myth or a misunderstanding you wish more people knew about the fear of hypnosis that could help them understand that you're not going to put somebody other and make them act like a chicken,
Right. So I think there's different layers and different parts to it. The chicken situation is a totally valid point, because that is what we usually see on TV. And that is part of hypnosis. That's hypnosis that is done for entertainment purposes. And that's totally cool, right? And usually when you go to a show like that, you know what's going to happen, and you're okay with that, right? So, but that is completely different from hypnosis that is done in therapy or that is done in coaching. The type of hypnosis we do in coaching, I like to call it transformational hypnosis, because we're not doing therapy. We're not trying to fix anything, right? We're not treating any disease. What we want is transformation. We want you to help change your mindset, change your point of view. And what people think happens is they are getting put into trance. Somebody comes with a pendulum and says, and now you're going to fall asleep, right? And then they don't know what's going to happen to them. Somebody's inside their mind and just does whatever they do, right? And it's this fear of losing control, this fear of, I don't know what's going on. Two things to understand about that. A, hypnosis doesn't always have to happen in trance. The form of hypnosis that I use is non-trance based hypnosis, meaning we're basically having a conversation like we're having now. My client is fully awake. They know exactly what's going on. And if I talk to the subconscious mind and I get a response that I don't know what to do with, that I don't understand, I can say, hey, Jane, what do you think that means? And then we can kind of involve you in that conversation and we'll figure it out together. So that's one point. And the other one is the hypnotist is really not the one who's making the changes. You as the client make the changes for yourself. I just facilitate. I just show you how you can get access to your subconscious mind. So any change that happens because you chose to make that change. Your mind chose to make that change. I'm just here to kind of guide the way, if you will.
Yeah. And so how do you begin to move this person? So like, say there's, we use the word stuck all the time. And, if we're being like really clear about things, stuck could be perfectionism. It could be imposter syndrome, so how do you begin to move the person out of this stuckness?
Yeah. The first part is always becoming aware of why this is going on. What purpose does this pattern serve? Because like we said before, is your subconscious mind does everything for a reason. And the most common reason is it tries to protect you, or it tries to help you in some other way. Maybe it wants to make you happy. But most of the time it wants to keep you safe and it wants to protect you. So we need to figure out, what is the purpose of this perfectionism? What is the purpose of the procrastination? And then you will usually get to those underlying roots, those fears. And then you can say, okay, so this is what we have to change. Because if we just work on the procrastination, then we're staying on the surface level. And that's not going to be a lasting change. So we have to go a layer deeper and say, okay, this is what it is. And then what I love my clients to do is I like to work with what I call the pattern I have and the pattern I want. So what is it that you're doing right now in the way you're behaving, in the way you're thinking, that is not serving you anymore? And how would you rather be? How would you rather think? How would you rather behave?
Yeah, I love that.
We have a point where we start and we have a goal. Because if you just say, okay, I don't want this anymore, then it's like getting up from a chair and saying, I'm going to leave. Okay, but where are you going to go? Then you're just standing in the room and nothing happens. Exactly. So you need to have a very specific part of, here I am, and this is where I want to be. So then we can bridge that gap. And usually in that gap, there's something that we call the BOOs: barriers, obstacles, and objections. The reasons why your subconscious mind doesn't allow you to make that change. Because here's the thing. Once a client comes to me, they have usually tried many different things before. Because if you want to make changes in your life, your first course of action is usually not going to a hypnotist. Right? Right. You're not like, oh, I have a problem, let me go to a hypnotist. No, you're trying everything else. You're doing all the courses, you're going to all the places. Right. And then when nothing works, then you're like, okay, fine, I might as well try hypnosis. So there's usually already a lot of work done in advance. And we already know, okay, what are the reasons that you're stuck? What is holding you back? What are those barriers, those obstacles, those objections?
And so once you uncover those and once they become aware, because awareness is the key, right? If you don't know you're doing it, you cannot change it. Mm-hmm. But we also know that, okay, so let's just use like overeating as an example. Mm-hmm. Like we're aware that we're overeating, but we continue to do it. So, so what are some of the ways that people can rewire their brain so that it doesn't feel like it's so forced and hard?
Mm-hmm. So, example, overeating, where's it coming from? What is the purpose behind it? And there can be 100 different reasons. Some of the most common when we're really talking about obesity and somebody who's morbidly obese, it oftentimes has to do with some kind of trauma. Maybe they were like sexually assaulted when they were younger. They were like some molested, however, and it's like kind of this protection mechanism. Or if I don't look that pretty, quote unquote, then I'm protected. Then nobody will want to hurt me. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's what you have to get to. Where's this coming from?
Yep, the root cause. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you basically, and that is where the kind of the magic comes in, if you will. And that what just takes a little bit of time and practice is on the part of the hypnotist. That is where we come in and we kind of reframe that experience. Okay. And we explain to the subconscious mind, I understand your pattern. I appreciate what you're doing, but I want you to think of it in a different way. Does this make sense to you? And since we're in this state of what we call subconscious dominance, where we're not running into this logical bouncer, it is a lot easier to get the subconscious mind to really acknowledge that and say, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe this is actually hurting us.
Right.
So let's reframe it and let's think about it in a different way. And let's acknowledge that we have a lot more agency now that we're older. We have a lot more tools at our disposal that we can use. We have other ways to protect us.
Right. And I always like to kind of say, like, asking yourself, is this true? And so I love how that kind of fits in with it, because it's the same sort of questioning, to get to the actual truth. And, because our brain is repeating those thoughts over and over and over and over and over, and we don't even know it's happening, right? The awareness can sometimes really throw people, off their seats.
Yeah. And so that's what I believe in cognitive behavioral therapy. That's the thing where they go like, okay, is this actually true? And if it is true, because sometimes it is it true 100% of the times?
Right.
And if not, okay, what is true for the other, whatever, 60%?
Yeah.
Right? Right. And so why are we not working on that one then? And why are we not going that direction?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So if somebody is constantly overthinking, they're constantly comparing themselves to others, I mean, that definitely leads to like a feeling of being like paralyzed and like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I'm sure you see this all the time, but for the person listening right now, like, what is one small but kind of powerful action they could take today to begin to shift that?
Especially with overthinking, there's an amazing exercise that I kind of borrowed from Mo Gadat. Mo Gadat is a speaker who focuses on happiness.
Okay.
And he has an exercise that he uses kind of to quiet the brain, because he says, okay, sometimes our brain thinks we're not listening. And then when we're laying down or when we want to focus on a task, then it sees the opportunity to just throw everything at us. Right? And then we're thinking all the things and everything's going on. So what he does is he says, okay, I give you, brain, 15, 20 minutes, however long, and tell me everything you want to tell me. Only condition is you can only say it once.
Wow.
And I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say anything about it. So we're just going through the thoughts. And then your mind will come like, oh, I'm hungry. Okay, great. Next. Oh, this is not going to work. Okay, great. Next. Oh, why do I keep doing all the stupid stuff? Okay, next. And you're just going through it. And eventually your brain will run out of ideas and will run out of thoughts. And that then gives you the time
I love that.
you want to do. So that's something that I started using a lot with my overthinkers, me being one of them. Right? And it really helps to kind of, it doesn't eliminate the root cause, obviously, but it gives you like a good tool for in the moment. If you really have to get some stuff done and you're feeling this paralysis, just allow your brain, allow your mind to voice all the concerns that it has, knowing, hey, we will get to that. We will address that. Thank you for mentioning it. Now that we have it out, let's focus on the task at hand, and then we'll figure that one out later. And as soon as you really keep your promise and address that later on.
Yes, I love that.
Then I noticed that your mind is really like, okay, I'm feeling hurt. I know somebody's listening to me, and now I'm going to wait my turn until we can resolve this.
Oh, that's so good. So kind of switching over to you and your own business journey, because the people that listen to this are creative entrepreneurs, and you are, we're mostly solo female entrepreneurs, which is you. So are you able to share with us a moment in your own business journey where you had to overcome fear and sort of rewire your own beliefs?
I think all the time. So I'm on my second business now. I started out when I moved to the US 15 years ago now. I had my 15-year US-versary in March 2025.
Oh.
I started out as a personal fitness trainer. That's still like a very small part of what I do now, but that was my thing. I was doing personal fitness training, and I would go to clients' homes. And when I started out, I had a lot to deal with imposter syndrome. I always had this feeling of everybody else knows so much more than I do. Yeah. I don't really look like a personal trainer. I was working on South Beach in Miami Beach. So that is like the capital of Barbie town, if you will. And I don't look like Barbie. Okay. So that was a lot of things that I had to deal with, and just realizing, especially with imposter syndrome, I think that's such an important part, because the funny thing about imposter syndrome is it always comes back with every new level that you reach.
Right.
Whenever you up level, whenever you go the next step in your business, if you're just like starting out, you're going from your 9 to 5 into your business, you usually have imposter syndrome. You hire your first employees, you have imposter syndrome.
You're right.
You're opening a physical location, you get imposter. So it's always coming back with every step that you take. And for me personally, realizing that it really only hits the people who already know a good amount about their field of expertise, who are already very good at what they're doing, because those are the people who become aware of all the things they're not knowing.
Right.
And if you're like just like airhead, then you're like, oh, I know it all. It's amazing. You don't have imposter syndrome, but you also don't know.
Right.
So just realizing that gave me like kind of this, okay, I get it. Like I'm just so hyper aware of all the things that I don't know, that I ignore everything that I do know.
Yeah.
And just also another thing with that is, the more you know about a topic, the more you believe it's common sense. I always had the feeling in fitness, everybody knows about macros, everybody knows about proteins and fats and carbs, and you should eat more greens and whatnot. So that's common knowledge. And then you talk to a new client and they think like Fanta is juice, and you're like, maybe I know a little something.
Yeah. Right.
So that just gives you like this reinforcement that you need to
right.
Be like, I actually
the evidence that's already in your life. It's like doubling down on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have done workshops, retreats, corporate trainings. What's your favorite part of your work that you actually do?
I love doing workshops and speeches. Workshops in particular, and I don't know when we're going to release this episode, but I have my first in-person workshop coming out at the end of June, so like a good month, 6 weeks from now that we're recording. And it's the first in-person workshop that I'll be doing since like 2020, I want to say.
Wow.
So I haven't done anything in person in that capacity for 5 years. And that is something that I'm super excited about. Because it's just such a different energy when you do something in person.
Yeah, definitely.
When you do it online. I mean, being virtually is great and you can connect with the whole world, but when you really have like a small group of people in like a room and you can feel that energy and you can feel that energy shift, and everybody sees like with their own eyes what's happening, that's just amazing. And then with speeches, if you're in front of a bigger audience, it's the same thing. It's like this energy that you're just getting and that you're able to give to the audience. It's just a different feeling.
Yeah. So tell us about the workshop. What's it about? Where's it at?
Yeah, it's a self-hypnosis workshop. It's a full day thing. So basically what I do, so I've been doing that for the past 5 years, but virtually, and sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours is interesting. It's an interesting experience in itself. So that alone will be a lot more comfortable. And it's basically, I walk my participants through the same exact method that I use with my one-on-one clients. So they come with one thing that they want to solve, one behavior pattern or thought pattern that they have that they want to release. And we're going step by step through the actual process of how this works. Cool. So by the end of the day, they will have already made some shifts, and they will know exactly what they can do to shift any other issue that they have in their life. And we're going to be holding it on June 28th from 10:30 to 5:30, and it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in South Florida. So if you guys are in the area and this is coming out beforehand,
it will.
And it's just, I secured this location yesterday.
Oh, fun.
And it's just super exciting.
And so is the information for this on your website, or where can they find this? And we can put this in the show notes too.
Yeah, so it's on my website, jenniferfidder.com/hypnosis-workshop. And that has all the details, where it is, when it is, and the sign-up page. Oh. But they can also just reach out via the website to me directly, and I'll get them started.
I love that. So if our listeners today can take one thing away from this conversation, what would you say that is?
I would say, don't be scared of your fears. Analyze them.
Oh, that's so good.
See where they're coming from, because that will give you a lot of awareness around your being stuck and how you can actually get out of it.
I love that. And awareness is the key. And I always say, like, once you're aware, like, you can't become unaware. You can go put it in a closet, but you know it's in the closet. So, I love that. It's like facing it. And the thing is, that's so amazing, is that when you do face it, it oftentimes just sort of dissipates,
Yeah, sometimes that's really all you need. Mm-hmm. Sometimes awareness is already all it takes.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as that.
I love that. Well, gosh, thank you so much for being here today. I want everybody to go to Jennifer. I know that you are on Instagram. And so we'll have all of your links in the show notes below. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.